Hi, my name is Florine Aalders and I'm 28 years old. And after graduation, I first explored the crystallization industry, but Malvern Panalytical appealed to me greatly. So that is why today I am an application specialist XRF. I enjoy working here because through the investigation of small things, we make big things happen. Our technologies enable our customers to create a better world, and that world, that's something I would like to talk to you about today. I am probably one of the younger colleagues at this company, and like many of you, I worry about the future of our world. You may have heard about global warming and the effect that greenhouse gas emissions are having on our planet. This climate change is one of society's biggest challenges. Solving it requires all of us to act with urgency. I want to work for an employer who really cares about that future and who is taking action. So today I will be talking to Tanneke Reinders, our Vice President Marketing and Head of Sustainability. So thank you, Tanneke, for talking to me. And more and more often we hear about net zero. Could you explain a little bit about this?
Thanks, Flora, and really great that you take the time to interview me, because it gives me the chance to talk about sustainability and what we're doing at Malvern Panalytical. But I'm also very happy to be interviewed by somebody of the younger generation that is definitely very passionate about sustainability. So your first question, what is net zero? Well, to put it very simple, it's the balance between the amount of greenhouse gas produced and the amount that is removed from the atmosphere. So it's basically what we are putting through our supply chain, through our own productions into the air, and what we're taking out.
Okay, well, that sounds very interesting. And now I would like to know a little bit more about our sustainability ambitions, because if we want to go to a net zero, how are we going to accomplish that?
Really good question. Now, first I want to say, so we are at Malvern Panalytical very passionate about the future, and we care about the future. So I'm very proud that actually last year we took really a big chance and made our ambitions visible. So from a net zero perspective, we are committing to have our productions and our scope 1 and 2, as they call it, by zero by 2030. Well, for our supply chain, we're committing to 2040. So that's a big, ambitious target, and that requires all of us to be working on this and embedding that in the way we work.
Mm-hmm. That sounds indeed very ambitious, but I'm happy with being ambitious. I'm not very familiar with the term scope 1, 2, and 3. What is that?
Yeah, so that is a real terminology that comes from the science-based targets. So science-based target is basically set by a group of associations that are working together to define that for business, basically. And it's part of, United Nations is part of that, but also WWF. And they are designed, and what is good is about it, that it makes it really clear targets that are used everywhere, so can be also audited. Because the one thing that we don't want to give the impression that this is all about greenwashing. So just telling nice stories, marketing-wise, no, that's not it. We really have clear ambitions that we're going to measure ourselves in. So to give you a little bit more insight what it is. So scope 1 and 2 is really simple. That's around our operations. That's what we are doing directly. So for example, when we produce products, we use energy and we emit greenhouse gas. The same thing is that if we are traveling in company cars and we don't do that in electric cars, we're also emitting greenhouse gas. So those are really the things we have under control. It's our own operations. If you then go to scope 3, that's much wider. So scope 3 is about our suppliers and our customers. So on one hand, our suppliers, how do they produce? Do they take into account all the sustainability measures and reduce to a net zero also when they are actually producing the parts with which we produce our products? And secondly, when you look at customers, what are they actually emitting in terms of greenhouse gas when they are using our products? So that's really product in use and product efficiency. And you were already telling you're working with very high energy products. So yeah, that's one of the focus. How can we actually reduce that?
That sounds really, really interesting, and I'm not familiar with those things, so thank you for explaining. So it does sound it's not just another product or project, and it will be embedded in our business. So I'm trying to say, how important is this for Malvern Panalytical?
Yeah, so for Malvern Panalytical, it's really important, and I would see even more than that. It's a commitment also that's given by the Spectors Group. So not only us as an operational company, but actually the whole Spectors Group is using similar targets. So the ambition is high, and one thing is very clear, that we can only reach that ambitions if everybody is participating in that. So this is not, an initiative that will be run by a small team. No, this is really about the way we're all going to work together and looking at the way we can all contribute to that. We're early now in the startup, so there's still a lot to do. And maybe going back also to those targets, if you think about doing our own operations, so scope 1 and 2 by 2030 at net zero, if you compare to where we are today, it means we need to reduce by 85% our emissions. That's a target we cannot do on our own. We absolutely need everybody to support in that. So again, it can be very small things, and everybody that can take a small part and make a small change, even simple things like switching off the lights or telling when you have a leaking water somewhere in the building, you give that a notice. Small things will also help to make in the end big improvements.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that. With small steps, we can make the world slowly a better place. So we have great targets, which are very far in the future. So what are we doing today in 2022? What will we do this year?
Yeah, so maybe one small step back. So 21, we really worked with also an outside consultant to understand actually where we are. And based on where we are, we have then defined, what are the big bucket things we need to do in the scope 1, 2, and 3 that I was talking about. So what this 2022 very much about is, in first instance, making sure on those big buckets that we have, to make sure that we have a clear plan in place and also clear metrics on how we're going to progress. So this is not a program where everything will happen in the first year. It's longer term. We have, let's say, 8 years now to 2030, we have 18 until 2040. But if we don't start now with making changes, we will not get to the target. So this year is very much about making those plans, making those roadmaps on those different areas. And then in a second step, or let's say in the second half year, we hope already that we can do some quick wins, but at least we have a clear plan in place how we're going to get to these targets by 2030 and 2040.
So Tanneke, I'm really happy with our goals and how you explained how we are going to do things in 2022. I also heard there are a lot of people who want to help. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, very, very good question, Flor. And I'm very happy to say that we have quite a lot of volunteers after we asked, let's say mid last year, who would be willing to support and help this. And we have quite a lot of volunteers, over 100 at the moment, that are participating in that. And it can be, some people have also related to the job they have do a larger part of that. Other people, they just provide an hour of support here and there, and that's also very, very welcome. Maybe what I forgot to tell, and it's maybe a good moment to explain also how we have set this up. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a few priority areas we work on, because based on our analysis in 2021, we know what are the big buckets, let's say, we have to solve. And maybe I can quickly mention them. So one is around renewable energy. So that's all around, how can we change the way the type of energy we use. So for example, solar panels, in order to make that really renewable and therefore not emitting any greenhouse gases. So that's a big scope for that, and we're working on that already with some energy audits we are doing in Almelo at the moment. But as you know, we're also very good because in Malvern and in Eindhoven, we actually have already a large part of our energy through solar. We have an area that is working on what we call sustainable transport. So electric vehicle is, of course, the first thing you think about. Can we change our fleet? Well, that's not possible everywhere so fast because just the infrastructure is not there yet. But we're also looking at other ways, how can we promote more sustainable transport within the company and with our employees. Then the third area, and that's where very much of the volunteers are coming in, is around energy efficiency. And energy efficiency is also about how can we at each of the locations we have around the world really focus on being efficient in energies. And often this comes with very small initiatives. So therefore we have also put green teams in place that are local teams, local led. They are deciding the agenda for the local organization and starting these smaller initiatives, but in the end that will make a big impact. So that's all scope 1 and 2. Scope 3, we have 2 big projects. One is all around our supply chain. So how can we get our suppliers also working according to net zero principles? And we have a special methodology with a company called EcoVadis where we actually test our suppliers on that. And we are going to challenge them to get to that right level. And it's also about product circularity. So how can we reuse parts? How can we bring, for example, precious metals that we're using back into the chain and having that circularity? And then the last on scope 3 is exactly what you mentioned also is product efficiency. So how can we make sure that in the development of our products, we're actually going to build in that our products are more efficient so that in the end, when they are in use, they will use less energy and emit less greenhouse gas. And then we have a 6th area we're working on that's not so much related to the scope 1, 2, and 3 of net zero, but that's very much around so what is happening in the marketplace, what's happening with our customers, and how can we actually help our customers in their processes, in their research to be more sustainable, not only through the efficiency of our products, but just because maybe with our products you can do better things, they can improve their processes and therefore be more sustainable. We're also looking in that area around what are the big business opportunities, because the one important thing also, there is a huge amount of investments and funding going into sustainability. And of course, we also want to leverage that. So that is also, again, our opportunity to work with those industries that are really focusing on that. And that can be new energies, like, for example, batteries, fuel cells, where we can really contribute to development. But it's also about how the industries that have maybe a less good reputation around sustainability, and I'm not mentioning one, mining, how can we actually help them on their net zero journey? So that's a bit the 6 areas that we're working on, and also where we work with the volunteers to support in all these different initiatives.
That sounds very promising. And for me, what I would also like to know a little bit more about is the Giga app, because that is something I heard people talking about, which can help me also help you again with this with these plans. So can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, so Giga app is a really nice initiative, I think, also to get everybody understanding what it means. And what you best can do with the Giga app, you can look at your own footprint at home. So what is your carbon footprint? How much actually are you emitting again on this greenhouse gas into the environment? So it's an awareness piece, but it also helps everybody to learn what are the small things you can actually do to improve that, either in your home, but also, of course, at work. So I would definitely encourage everybody download that app on your phone. It is available in 3 languages, English, French, and Dutch, of course. So I think that helps many to understand that. Do that. You can find it on SharePoint, and I think that will help also to really get that engagement going.
Well, thank you, Tanneke, for explaining what I can do with this Giga app. That sounds wonderful. I will definitely look into it.
Yeah, and that's really great, and I would absolutely encourage everybody to do that. But I also have some questions for you, Flor, if you are okay. We're going to turn a bit our roles now. So, you as a young person, so why is sustainability so important for you?
Well, it is important not only to me, but I think it's for everybody important, because I want to have a world to live in. I want my children to have a world to live in with all the opportunities that I have. And if we don't make sure that our world is healthy, just like we are, then, yeah, well, there might not be a world to live in anymore, or at least we might have an ocean much closer to Almelo instead of Amsterdam. So that's not something I want. So I think if we start fixing things now, we have the opportunity to be in time to keep things the way they are and improve where we can as much as possible.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. So maybe between the generations, everybody always says the younger generation is more passionate maybe than myself, that is a little bit from an older generation. But I think on this one, we're absolutely aligned. And I think all of us, we need to act now. And it can be small things, big things, but we need to start tackling this big societal problem. So another question then maybe for you. So if you were in my shoes, what would you do differently?
Well, to start with, that's a very hard question because even though I have a chemistry background, I would have a hard time to start. But I think you are taking the right steps, and I would also appreciate the things you are doing currently, and I think I would be going through the same track by pushing our net zero agenda and making sure everybody knows about it, everybody is aware, and it's great to have a team of at least 100 people or more who are helping it at several locations to make this happen. And although I would be happier if the green teams are at all locations, so I would really want to see that happen, but I think you will make that happen. And the sustainability SharePoint site, that will help as well. I think we're on the right track, and to make the future green again, or much greener than it already is, with more trees, more animals, more of everything. Sounds wonderful.
Really great, and thanks, Floor. I think I'm happy to know that we're taking the right steps. There is really a lot of work to do, so a lot of work also to get this really embedded as the way we work and in our DNA. But I'm also quite confident that we're going to get there, and there is definitely a huge leadership commitment to make this happen. And if we get aboard the whole organization, I think we can really move mountains all together. So looking forward to see that. And again, it's not all today, but we need to start acting now to make our targets also in 8 and 18 years. So thanks a lot, Floor, for this interview.
Yes, thank you too. And up to the green future. Let's go.
Absolutely.